Teachers of Reddit, what is the scariest thing you have ever seen a student do? 1. Answering this as a school bus driver. Close enough. Literal first day of school a student. 7. Grabs a girl that was getting off the bus from behind and pretends to cut her throat with his finger. 1. Ellie. Instant front seat. Instant ride up. Principal, boys will be boys. Ignored third day of school, same student gets up while we're doing 55 miles per hour and finger guns several students in the back of the head. Execution style. Mother of God. Big ride up. Principal, boys will be boys. You can't put him in the front seat for that. It was playful. No, the absolute fuck, it was not playful. He did the same thing the next day, but this time I had the principal time stamped on my camera telling me I wasn't allowed to put him in the front seat, and him doing it again. I wrote up the kid and the mother effing principal. Instant shit show. Pulled into safety office at work with transportation director. Warned I could lose my job if I SL up this shit, but I didn't back down. I wanted that kid off the bus, but if I couldn't have that, I needed him in the front seat away from everyone else. I got it. Principal was banned from coming within 50 feet of my bus. She couldn't stop herself, and did so after 2 weeks to tell me I was an awful person. She was immediately removed from her position, because I wrote her up again. They gave her a counselor's spot at the high school to finish the year. Not sure if she did. Anyway, new principal rides the bus, tells me he's got the kid now, and the kid's so fucking scary that they have to have him in his own class, with 2 adults, but that the mom refuses to get the kid any help or admit there's a problem. I'm told not to allow anyone within 3 seats of him. And one day, kid says, bus driver, do you think people are colorful on the inside, like robots, or all boring in the same color like my dogs? I followed up. He casually tells me he's killed his dogs and put their parts on the fence 4 times. His sister rides a different route. Had told me when he was 3 or 4, he sat on the cat and killed it on purpose. That she had to sleep with her door locked because he tried to kill her in her sleep multiple times. She moved out the day she turned 16, and in that state, no one could make her return home. And he said, on the day that he confessed to killing his dogs, "Don't worry, bus driver, mom's going to get me a new puppy." Sure as shit, dropped him off at daycare, and mom was there to surprise him with a new fucking puppy. At 15 he killed his mom, his aunt, his 2 little cousins, and all of their dogs, and went to school covered in their blood, not believing he'd done anything wrong. He'd killed them because he wanted to go to a friend's house and she said no. 2. This was a boy who was 4-5. I would help my mom, who was the actual teacher. This kid would constantly cry. All the time, no matter what we did. I would always sit with him and color, talk, just anything to try to help him feel better. He would always make sad pictures of himself crying in a monster. He said no one believed the monster was bad. I told him we all have monsters sometimes, but we have to be brave because once we face the monster, sometimes they go away. I ended up telling his mom about this monster and she wasn't sure what it could be. Long story short, the monster ended up being his dad. He cried all the time because the dad was inappropriately abusing him. I hate saying it any other way. Every day he was home, but the mom actually walked in on it when she got off early from work one day. She tried to shoot the dad. He ended up in jail. She told me she put the kid in therapy. I've not seen him since, but that has stuck with me. I thought it was just a creepy thing he thought about. The monster. Make-believe or something. But no. His monster was real. 3. He didn't really do anything that scary while he was with me, but he did bloody scare me after he was gone. I had just become the class teacher of 39th graders in the middle of the school year, and had to tell a student that he was expelled because he had only shown up to class 3 times in 6 months. We had a nice chat before that. I had told him I felt I was missing the bigger picture here as I was new to that class, but that I still felt bad because he didn't seem to be the kind of guy who just skipped classes because he didn't feel like leaving his bed. He was very polite, thanked me for being gentle, shook my hand, turned around and clocked another student, breaking his nose, ran out of the room and pepper sprayed the door area to cover his retreat. So that was awkward. Days later I finally had time to go through the administrative files of my new students. His file was full of drawings. He liked to draw in class when he still came. He drew mainly AK-47s. He was born in Russia. We were in Western Europe. Around the AK-47s, Love poems to the AK-47 in Russian. Scenes of, well, AK-47s in action. And lists of fellow students. My predecessors had confiscated these drawings in his hit lists and put them away in a file that most people wouldn't even touch because it's mainly for documentation of things you already know when you're their teacher. Nobody had told me that there might be a fucking problem waiting for me. Nobody had told the social worker of the school, probably because he didn't disrupt classes. Also, nobody had told me that the other student and his pals had bullied him relentlessly for a year before he decided to stay away from school. I guess I wasn't told that because no teacher knew, as they hadn't fucking cared to find out why he was spending recess alone, sitting for himself with a 1,000-yard stare. I learned that when the other students had warmed up to me and started telling me things like this. 4. I was teaching grade 4 and had announced my pregnancy to the class when I was about 4 months. Everyone was so excited. One little guy, however, made it his mission to try and hurt my baby. On several occasions he kicked a soccer ball at my bump, would try and trip me, and one time even said "let's meet this baby" while opening and closing scissors. There was some other contributing factors, but I ended up taking leave early due to anxiety over this. So weird. When I returned the next year he had moved to a different school. 5. I have had several dangerously violent children over the course of my career, but it's been really bad the past 3 years. Kids trying to steal my teacher's scissors so they could stab someone, flying desks and chairs, kicking and punching adults, self-harm, physically attacking younger students, vandalism, screaming and crying so loud no teaching can happen, growling when angry, running away. I had a student last year who would get upset and stand against a wall banging his head until blood started to smear the wall. Yes, we tried to stop him, but it usually involved 3 to 4 adults restraining him. Kids can be really hard to restrain when they're thrashing around. It never surprises me to hear of kids my students' ages being put in handcuffs. His mom said the wall banger was fine and didn't need any counseling. My principal encouraged me to work harder at building a relationship with him. The kid would usually be returned to class within 30 minutes of being dragged out with a bandage on his head and a bag of hot Cheetos. I teach kinder in 1st grade. 6. I was a teacher for 15 years. This happened to my GF at her school. Grade 2 teacher hears sounds in the back coat closet. She finds a boy and girl from her class, 6-7 years old, in the missionary position. When the boy hops off, he is not erect. They were just pretending call both sets of parents in. Turns out they all get together on Zed nights and have porno nights. They watch pornos with the kids in the room. So these 2 kids were just mimicking what they saw Child's and it was called, and my guess is porno night, got cancelled. 7. Had a kid who was likely psychosociopathic. Other staff often labeled him as super cute and had a great smile, but the kid was disturbingly good at getting large groups to follow him, and there was always something off and kind of fake about his happy tone of voice, like it was coming from someone 10 years older. From time to time, kids who I'd known to be a follower of his would do something wrong and completely out of character, but it was always difficult proving he was actually the cause of it. One day on the playground I noticed he kept relocating his group out of earshot of staff. When the staff moved, the group moved somewhere else. I kept close enough to be noticeable to them, and eventually the kid came up to me and said something like, "Don't you think the younger kids need more attention right now?" And I said, "Nope, I think I'm right where I need to be." To which all emotion disappeared from his face. He looked me dead in the eye and coldly said, "No, I think you need to go somewhere else right now." Then gave a large smile and went back to friends. I referred to him as Manson to the other staff from that day forward. 8. For me, it's not what I see. I have seen your typical high school garbage happen. Fights to the point of unconsciousness. Students stating they're going to kill his student. Lots of knives, no guns though, etc. It's what you hear from kids. So far I have known 5 sexual assault issues, 2 rapes from a family member, 5 or 6 pregnancy scares and they can't tell mom, 2 or 3 serious suicidal ideation, no food in the house for more than I can remember. These are the things that mess with my mind at night. My classroom is under my control. What happens later is not. To play along though, when a kid overdosed in class was a little alarming. Trying to wake up a teenager while also not trying to curse or hurt him, sternum rub, which could lead to a lawsuit, was not fun. I didn't actually sternum rub him, but I was close to doing it. I had called for the nurse but they were already gone. The admin was taking their time getting there. The other kids were cool about it though. For anyone wondering, he made it out just fine and from what I know at least attempted college. 9. Oh, this one is easy. Sadly too many to list, but this one stands out. Probably somewhere around my 8th year of teaching. Lord, I am so damn old. I had a student attempt suicide in the bathroom. Now I always keep a first aid kit in my classroom at all times, complete with tourniquet. Cause America, and I teach middle school. So when I hear some screaming from the bathroom, I automatically assumed a fight until someone started screaming she is bleeding everywhere. I grabbed my kit and just strolled into the girls' bathroom. To see blood everywhere as one of the older students, 8th grade, had slashed the wrists deep. Start yelling to call 911 and apply pressure to the wound. The girl, who was semi-conscious, kept whispering in my ear to let me go and it's okay, while also haunting me and saying I don't want to die. Thankfully, emergency services came quickly and were able to get her to hospital. I just sat on the bathroom floor, on the pool of blood, and just started crying. Legit crying hard. Something I've never felt or done before. Like a deep whale shit. This of course freaked the kids out, because you have to imagine that I am not the smelly store emotional teacher in the school, to where the students now started freaking out. Admin came in and just sat with me as I cried my heart out. Needless to say, I took 2 days off, which thankfully led to the weekend. I think it hit me so hard because I was also quite depressed in middle school and had similar thoughts of suicide. Of course, it also hurt because I have a daughter. It just hit me all at once and I was a wreck for weeks. Girl survived and last I heard as a family and is doing well. Her mother had just died to cancer, which led to the depressive episode. I've had many things happen over my years of teaching, but this definitely was top 3 scary. 10. After 15 years in preschools, this last year was the most difficult. I often felt more like a bouncer than a teacher. My group of 16 students would normally be a breeze. You get a range of characters and maybe 1 or 2 high-needs students. But this year, by the end I realized we had about 6-7 high-needs students, almost half the class. 4 of them prone to violence. If I could get one to stop, I could get the next to stop fighting. But by the time I got to the 3rd or 4th student, the first would run up and hit someone else. Blocks would go flying and several times I had to dodge quees and air rods 1M sticks. My glasses had been broken once and spit on multiple times, and my shirts ripped all in attempts to stop them from hitting each other. Though the one act that disturbed me the most was around the time we had an outbreak of the rotavirus hot projectile vomiting. We give the students the benefit of the doubt and privacy in the bathroom, as you do. But one particularly screechy student had started going and pouring the other kids' toothpastes in the bathtub. But every day or so we wanted to show him that we believed in him, that we could trust him. As we were getting ready to go outside one day, 3 students started fighting over where to put some shoes. But I didn't see Jay, or hear his usually yelling. I asked my co-teacher, and she told me he asked to go get his water bottle from the class about 10 minutes prior. She chose to handle the battling students and I went to the class bathroom. There was Jay grinning his demented grin and laugh next to the toilet, toothbrushes all on the floor, and on in his hand as he brought it into the toilet. I shouldn't have taken it from his hand, but I did and the screeching started. We had to store the toothbrushes and toothpastes away from the students until Jay left. 11. Early 90s, in middle school, I was a 6th grader and in our band class, with one of my friends being this nicer guy named John. He was in 7th grade in this class. Any grade could join with me. However, there was another guy named Ben who was in this class that was also a 7th grader, and he was mean as hell. One day, there was a mandatory 6th grade assembly, and the band director had to walk us across campus to the assembly. John confided to me that when you leave, I know Ben is going to hurt me. The pain in John's face was indescribable. I didn't know what to do, but my mom was the art teacher at the school and luckily the art room was next to the band room, and when our teacher let us out, I made sure I was last in the line. My mom was a cool teacher, but she smartened me up to being a teacher's kid and told me never to tell or report what other kids do as some tattletale. But this I felt was going to be extreme, and luckily she was hanging up a new art display in the hall, and I told her what John said to me. She said she understood and promised she'd check in on that class. The whole half-hour assembly I'm a nervous wreck and wonder if John is okay. Luckily he was. According to my mom, she walked in just to check in on the class and found that Ben had John pressed up against the wall. Ben had a protractor compass needle from math class out in his hand, and he had the needle in the ear canal of John. Luckily, Mom caught him before any physical damage occurred. John was incredibly rattled and Ben caught a semester-long suspension from school. Years later, John worked in the music industry and even won a couple Grammy Awards for his efforts. Ben, however, didn't turn out well at all. More suspensions and expulsions. He eventually became a drug dealer and one night tried robbing a fellow drug dealer while driving around. The dealer shot him in the chest and then set the car on fire where he subsequently burned to death. He was only 18.